Hey folks, welcome to Friendly Orbit, the podcast that draws us together no matter how far we fly. I'm Ceres, ready to cook and take a closer look at some world building, and I'm joined by...
My ambition knows no bounds today. It's Theia.
Do we want to let them in on what the episode's about?
Yeah, today we're playing an improvisational world building game, collaborative world building game, I should say, called
Best
Microscope.
kind of world building.
Best kind of world building. Microscope is, as I described, it's a collaborative world building game that you can play with your friends by simply buying the instruction manual and having some paper to write on. It's about building out a timeline, not in a linear way, but by focusing in on specific topics and aspects of the world that you're building and fleshing them out before moving on to something else. So you can really zoom in or zoom out, and that's why it's called Microscope. And this kind of fractal way of world building is a lot of fun. We have played it once to try it out. We hopefully learned a couple of lessons. Yeah, it was a clown world. It was had a very hard magic system and very soft noses.
If you've watched Dimension 20's A Crown of Candy, it was very much that. It was very much like Game of Thrones style politics with extremely lighthearted genre inspiration.
Yeah, though I think that calling it Clown World is already demonstrates a bias because there were a lot of other people who were not clowns.
Yeah, that is true.
You are a clown imperialist. And you think that world...
I am a clownsel. I'm a part of the clownsel hegemon. The high top flows through my veins.
Yes, the high clownsel.
Yeah, our main two competing factions were what were they called again?
The Roller Coast.
Clownlandia and the Roller Coast. And those were the main two, like the Lannisters and Starks or something, you know what I mean? Those are the main two heavy hitters.
And we don't talk about what happened to Mimica.
We don't talk about what happened to Mimica.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So today we're going to play again.
Awesome.
And Ceres, I want to raise you a challenge. Today we will create a world, probably a fantasy world. That we will bring back at some point to actually play in a fantasy role-playing system of our choosing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Exciting.
This is why my ambition knows no bounds. I want to create the podcast setting.
Oh my god.
That's right.
Just to clarify, because I've had this idea before, is the idea that we play in this world multiple times and we do like a one-on-one game?
Well, it doesn't have to be one-on-one.
Or do we do like a one-shot in this world?
Well, we can do... I think that we should return to it multiple times. We can also explore different eras depending on what we make today. But I would be very happy to not only play one-on-one with you, but bring in other players such as Proteus or Nereid or Copernicus.
I always knew this podcast would be a pipeline into recording actual play. This is the easiest form of content.
I'm sorry that I'm the one starting this. This is the gateway episode.
Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Okay, how do we start this game? Well, we start this game by actually collaborating.
Mm-hmm.
Collaborating on setting the big picture. I say that we start by collaborating. For our audience, you need to understand this game will not be collaborative in the way that we discuss things together. It will be collaborative in the fact that the final product will emerge as a collaboration of our ideas, but we will not get to discuss things when it's a very yes and game. If Ceres says something, no matter how bad it is, I have to yes and.
And no matter
but
how good it is, you don't get to drag it down with your lower potential.
that's true. All right, so let's set the big picture. So, I would like to still lean towards like fantasy, because even though D&D is not the only system that we play, the majority of systems that we play and are interested in are fantasy.
Absolutely.
But I'm not too shy about having this world span enough time that we'll get some sci-fi stuff in there if you want to
I am
throw in
I am
some.
100% on that vibe. I was going to suggest I mean, okay, yeah, big picture, let's put down fantasy, right? Oh
Mhm.
shit, I'm in the wrong cell. All right, big picture, fantasy, right? But what I was going to say is eras. And I don't mean eras as in just like time periods, but like
Mhm.
Avatar style eras where like things significantly shift from one time period to another,
Yeah, definitely.
like
So
and like with technological development and stuff like that.
mhm. Yeah, for sure. So so it's gonna be like a fantasy world, a fantasy timeline that will involve a significant amount of like technological shift. Okay, so for the big picture, I think we still need something a little bit more specific, right? Because when it comes like fantasy that like spends a lot of time, that's kind of generic.
Yeah.
Do we like what's our pitch, like, if you were to say, like, probably like your current campaign is like history of like magitech scavenging
Yeah.
civilizations after an apocalypse. Maybe, okay, that's maybe too specific, but
Yeah. But I see what you mean. How about
Mhm.
we've been dancing around this for a while, right? How about Monster World? And each era is like is like kind of how we on Earth have like biological evolutionary eras, right? So it's Monster World. It's all about creatures. Technology goes through creatures. Um, yeah. How about that? What do you think of that?
I'm not sure I fully get the concept.
Okay. It's Monster World, all right? This is planet of King Kong and Godzillas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And each era represents a different biosphere that ends with a cataclysm like real life evolution
Mm-hmm.
that like marks a transition point. And
Okay,
so
but we still have people living in here. It's just like if the
exactly,
entire planet
right.
was
Yeah,
Skull
yeah.
Island.
And so the people, right, they
Mm-hmm.
have to adapt to the titans around them, right? And so like
Mm.
technology developing in quotation marks in this world is like you know kind of how like animals get more and more intricate as time goes on. Like it's like, oh, we're single celled, now we're multi-celled. The basic dogma of biology is solved, right? But now we start to figure out terrestrial lifestyles. Now we, and like so life kind of becomes, although it's gauche to say, life kind of becomes more advanced as time goes on, right?
More
Um,
complex.
yeah,
That's probably a
right.
fair statement.
So like what if that's the technology, right? Is the technology is harnessing creatures and like pieces of these creatures, right? And like I like the idea of a world in which humans are not in charge.
Sure, that sounds good. Humans or humanoids, but yes.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean.
Yes,
Mortals,
yes. Mortals, yeah.
the POV characters.
Yeah. Okay.
All
Sure.
right, so how do we want to summarize that? We'll just call it, I mean, Monster World was sort of what I meant, right? Or what I said. I
Hmm.
don't know, does that capture it well for you?
I don't know. When you said Monster World, the first thing that I thought was like kind of like Monster Hunter, like it's all about hunting monsters. And then I thought, oh, are all the people monsters? Like, like the most human thing there is an orc. And after that, it's just like bugbears and goblins.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think, um, like
I want to put
the
down humans are not in
history
charge.
of
That's a big
yeah,
part of the vibe,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So like history of a world dominated by uh, the ever shifting megafauna.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Megafauna World. That's what I should have said.
Megafauna World. Yeah, that's rolls right off the tongue.
Rolls right off the tongue.
Right off the tongue of the giant Godzilla monster.
Exactly.
And its
It
giant
rolls right
tongue.
off the tongue and into the gullet of the giant baby bird Godzilla,
Yeah.
which needs food to grow
Yeah.
fat for winter. You guys.
Yeah, you know what has you know what's better than a tongue? Mega tongue. For the megaphone.
Megatongue. Is this just Mega World? Anything that's
Yeah.
cool, we just say Mega and then put it in the world.
Yeah, I can't wait to develop the mega magic system.
Yeah, this is Mega Fantasy right here.
Yeah.
Not normal fantasy, you guys. It's Mega Fantasy.
Yeah, it's not magic, it's magic.
All right. Let's.
Okay,
do we
so-
want to? So at the start of the game, this is what you do in Microscope. You set the big picture together.
Yeah.
What's next?
What's next is bookend history, creating the start and end period. So we fence in the time period that this is going to like this our timeline is going to span. So for example, it could start with like an era that we call the first hatching, without going too much into what it is, and then the final era is King Ghidorah eats the universe.
Yes. Who decides? We decide together?
We decide together. They're still collaborating.
Okay. I feel like for the start era, I would think it would be cool if it was just called the Dawn of Consciousness.
Mm.
And so like
life has
maybe
already existed.
exactly,
but like
we don't know.
We
we don't know what the real start is. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's just like, and then we were here. Whatever our POV characters end up being.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the dawn of consciousness. I like that.
All right, cool. And now you're in charge for the main idea as to how this universe ends.
Yeah, the dawn of consciousness. Well, the thing is not how the universe ends, right? It's just like this is the end of our timeline, and what happens afterwards, we don't know.
Yeah, I
but,
mean, it's
like,
the end of the story,
I did like
right?
King Ghidorah. Yeah, King Ghidorah eats the world is a pretty good end.
It's a rough end. I mean, it's very sad.
I don't know. I think if you come to appreciate the cycle of life, it's really the only way such a story could end.
Well,
Uh,
all right. Pitch me on this then, or tell me this then. If King Ghidorah eats the universe, does the cycle of life continue?
yes, King Ghidorah has Ghidorah babies.
Okay. So I mean, like, if something is left. I'm willing to buy the cycle of life as the moral of the story, and so we end with the end, and life continues on, but in a completely different way, right? And so we don't. But like, I have to say, I'm kind of a little bit not on board with the world ends, it's darkness forever, nothing ever matters again. That's a little bleak. If I have to be honest, that's a little bleak.
Damn, you should read about Buddhism more. You should live in the now.
Hey man, the now is important, but also like closure.
Yeah, I mean, okay, but Ceres, do you live with the constant anxiety about the heat death of the universe?
A little bit, yeah.
Well, man, you should talk to your therapist about that. I don't know. That doesn't sound healthy.
It's just not very optimistic. I prefer the big crunch.
We all
That one
prefer
at
the
least
big
has
crunch.
a new universe born.
We all prefer the big crunch, but we don't get to choose. All right. Let's see.
It's not obviously not King Ghidorah, right? But
yeah.
The proposed ending is something eats the world.
No, I mean that started as a joke. I'm considering if I have like a better idea for this than a big monster eats the world and then we move on.
Well, I mean, I did like what you were saying about the cycle of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a great ending for a cycle of life story is when a fundamentally different kind of life that the reader would not relate to as much, or that the story is just not about, takes over, right? So it would be like, life goes on, but in such a way that it doesn't make sense for you to keep reading this story, right? And so
true.
That could be like the ultimate takeover of the viral hive mind, or it could be like artificial life supplants biological life forever, or the planet is lost but life continues on new stars, right? Or something like maybe like a Superman Krypton thing where it's like, the planet is destroyed but life lives on other planets or something like that.
I was playing with the idea of humanity moves to the stars. It's like humans just like leave this planet alone.
Mm.
Um,
I think
I
that
was
could be a
also
cool ending. I think that's interesting.
I'm also
I
considering.
also like the spore idea, but I
Yeah,
also
I
think it's
had a panspermia idea where like the planet is like kind of like breaks into like an asteroid belt,
and like
and we
spreads
end.
to like many new places.
Yeah, it's kind of like like either it gets scattered with if the thing that's like that breaks it is strong enough, it could like shatter it enough to send pieces flying across the universe. Or also we end with like asteroid belt, with like instead of having a single where we have like giant like floating asteroids, each one is like its own ecosystem, and sometimes they bump into each other.
Yeah,
But that almost feels like a setting in and of itself.
exactly. That's what I was gonna say. That sounds like a cool idea for how the setting might already be. Question mark?
Or how it
Like
could
that
change.
could be the status quo of our story. That seems like a cool way to do the story.
Yeah,
In
it
terms
could
of
be like
ending
a
the
good
story, I prefer the first idea you had.
king.
Or the second, whatever. The idea that like, the planet gets shattered, but some fragments of it, like, they fly across and life will go on somewhere.
Mm. Well, I think if something shows up and eats all the floating asteroids, some bits will like nestle themselves in its body and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like the way that that seeds are spread by having a predator eat the fruit, and then the
Mm-hmm.
seed is spread somewhere else.
Uh-huh.
So I think that we can have that open. I'm just going to I don't want to call it King Ghidorah, but do you have a good name for a King Ghidorah type
The
creature?
Apex. Just call it the Apex for now. This is not a great game for coming up with names, right? I feel like this is the kind of game where you create a great outline and then you come in at 2 days later with like a dictionary and ChatGPT and you rename everything.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say the Apex of the Abyss eats the world.
Fuck, man. I know when I want to be born on this timeline.
Yeah, roughly at column G, probably. That feels like that's when it's gonna. It's gonna be. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I think like if you like the asteroid idea, we can have it something that happens, and like by at some point in the middle, the planet turns into an asteroid belt. We can definitely have that.
I just think it's an interesting idea, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the things
And I mean, to be
been
clear,
eating
like
at
we
me a
don't have
little
to
bit
play.
from a.
Sorry. To be clear, like we don't have. Like if we ever come to this world and play, we can pick whichever era we want to play.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's also been eating at me a little bit, and because we're going into the palettes, I want to put this on the no list, or slightly. One thing that's been like recently, I feel like making a very physically realistic world is cool and is interesting. And we've been reading the Brandon Sanderson books, and like he has his laws for like conservation of magic force and like thermodynamics of magic. And it's a very physical world, right? He's got like giant crab beasts in it. And then he creates an in-universe reason. There's a magic spirits that bond these giant crab beasts and make it so they don't weigh so much that they get crushed under their own weight. And that is cool and fun, but I'm a little over it. I've been seeing it a lot recently. I've been doing it a lot recently. I want, so I would like to put as a yes on the palette, or I guess I would put it on the no on the palettes, which is like physiological physics has to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
So we should probably explain the palette because I kind of
no
jumped the gun a
square
little
cube
bit.
law. Yeah, let's move to the palette. So the palette is essentially the kind of like special ingredients that we want to add to this world and the common ingredients that we don't want into this world. So, for example, we have like this megafauna idea, right? But let's say that Ceres is a monster and he's like, yes to megafauna, but no bugs. He's like, he's a hate monger and wants
that
to
would
see this
destroy
world.
you.
Yeah, that would destroy me. So he can say like, it would be pretty normal for us to have giant bugs in this world, but I hate you, and so I put bugs in the no area of the palette. He doesn't have to put in sentient robots. Maybe, I don't know. Probably he shouldn't. Sorry, probably like AI is not high fantasy. So
Yeah, like AI is not high fantasy and is not megafauna, so you probably don't need to put it in the no column of the palette, right? The no column
Exactly.
for the palette is what might you expect, but is
Mhm.
not in this world, and the yes palette is what might you not expect in this world, but it is actually, right?
Exactly. So for the for example, if we want to have I don't know, what's something that we would not expect in this world?
It's the same
But
stuff. It's the same
AI.
list. It's AI, for
Yeah,
example, right?
yeah,
You
AI.
wouldn't expect AI in this world, so you could put it in the yes palette to specifically encourage it, or you could take something else which is common in this world, like giant bugs, and you could put that on the no column to discourage that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like you already
If you
made an
put
example for the yes side.
yeah, if you put bugs in the no column, I will put like suits of armor in the no column.
I'll put
Cool
fun
suits
in the
of
no
armor.
column.
Sorry,
I'll
what?
put suggestions from Ceres in the no column.
Exactly. I just put Ceres. Like you can't. This is my episode now.
Get out of my sandbox. You can't play. You're not playing dolls right. All right, so
Yeah.
I already put
Okay.
one item on the palette, which is physiologically accurate physics, is what I called
Okay,
it,
so
right?
it's my
And
turn,
what I
and
mean by
basically we
that,
go back and forth. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that was my turn. So basically what I mean by that is like, no square cube law. We don't need to explain how the bugs got this big or why this creature can breathe laser beams. Like
Mm-hmm.
if we want to, we can, but let's not dabble in that well too much. Let's not spend too much time thinking about how Godzilla works.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if this belongs in the yeah column or it's just like a given, but I'm gonna add physically incarnated gods. So the idea that gods are real, but like they don't live in the spiritual realm.
Right.
They're
Yes.
like
Yeah.
they're like like there is the turtle island. At the turtle island is like
Exactly.
a turtle,
Yeah.
and the turtle is a god.
I love that idea. Yeah, I
Okay.
think I always think that's great. It's something I love in this genre. The idea that like, who's my god? He's the 2,000 story tall panda with the forest growing on his back.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I don't. Yeah.
What
No, I
would
don't
you
have.
worship
I
in
don't
this
have
setting?
faith. Yeah, I don't have faith. I see it.
I literally can't stop looking at it.
Yeah. It fills up the whole landscape.
Okay. I'm gonna put in the yeah column. Late. Oh, wait. Sorry, I'm putting it in the wrong column. I'm gonna put in the yeah column. Late stage.
Capitalism.
Space tech. Right. Like eventually, we can Avatar Pandora Unobtainium this fucker. That's allowed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can use
so
it.
you want to make it like space tech. You want the space tech to be like, when you say tech, you mean it like kind of looks like ours, or you thinking more like Spelljammer? We have like magical galleons, fantasy galleons that can travel through space.
So I think it's interpretable, right? I don't want to set down a hard rule, but I think what I think would be cool is if our space tech was megafauna based, right? So it doesn't look like our tech or like Space Jammer. It's
okay.
But the idea is that by the end, consciousness, like by the end of this timeline, somewhere, consciousness is intelligent enough to create like sci-fi level of technology out of the magic system of their world.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So like if we have a laser beam later that's
Mhm.
like, well, it's the Godzilla gland, right, attached to a stick or whatever, but it's a
Yeah.
laser beam like you would know it from Star Wars or whatever, then like that's cool. That's allowed.
Yeah.
Right. What's your next contribution?
I'm going to put in the okay because we are going because we, like if you agree with like the idea of playing in this world,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we need to this maybe this is something that we should agree on like right now. It's like does like kind of like D&D or more traditional RPG like fantasy lineage belong here? Or do we want to come up with our own? Like, do we want bugbears to inhabit this world? Do we want elves in this world? Or should we not? And come up with our own.
So, I mean, the thing is, we did write fantasy, right, at the start.
Yeah, but like fantasy,
but
you might have. Mhm.
I feel like you and I like to stray from the beaten path. And I would say, why rob ourselves of the opportunity to come up with we're going to come up with a fuck ton of animals for this setting, right? As it is.
Yeah.
Why rob ourselves of the opportunity to do something slightly different of elves that we can like attribute some kind of evolutionary history to and stuff like that. So I'm in favor of like actually no classic fantasy species, not even humans.
Not even humans.
I think it's fun if we just come up with our own shit. Like, they'll probably look like humans, right? But you know what I mean? Like, wouldn't it be interesting if the world human didn't exist in this setting, right? It was just like, it's just a different biome, right?
Yeah.
Like the
well,
Na'vi
honestly,
are very human.
I think it would solve a lot of things, because then when we say humanity, we mean like, the humanoid, conscious, independent people. And we don't always have to specify not humanity as in the humans, but humanity as in the world. Yeah. So no traditional fantasy lineages. Okay. I just felt like this was a choice that we had to make consciously. Your turn.
Yeah, no problem.
Not fantasy. Fantasy.
I'm going to put on the. I always put stuff on the no stuff, I feel like, but I feel like, and I think this is the right way to do this. I don't know what the right way to put it is, but I think because we're doing because there will be TTRPG magic in this setting, I feel like I want to put on the no list, we're not in space.
We're not in space as in our space. We're in a fantasy version of space.
Exactly, right?
Like,
so
we're
like
floating
there doesn't
in cosmic,
need to be a vacuum outside
we're
of the
floating
planet.
in cosmic miasma or something.
Yeah, like we don't exactly like we can be floating if we want to be. We don't need to breathe air, right? Electromagnetism is not a word anyone's ever said. It doesn't apply. You know what I mean? Like, it can be cosmic, but I don't want to do real life space physics. So that's actually probably the better way to put it, is no real life space physics. But it can be cosmic. Cool. That's my contribution.
Okay. I'm going to add to the side. I'm going to do something a little odd. But like I was kind of thinking originally, well, humans then humanity, humanoids shouldn't be able to like cast world-shaping spells, right? Magic shouldn't be so powerful that that humans can like change the world with it. And I said, what about this instead? It's that megafauna can cast spells. Not the way that we do it with like a book, Godzilla is not going to pull out his giant Godzilla tome and cast and cast
but
fireball.
Yeah, but Godzilla can cast like a sunbeam or like, I totally agree with that, because you said that the gods are physically incarnated, right?
Yeah.
And so that means I mean, for D&D to work, they would have to
Mhm.
be able to cast spells, right? Maybe we're not
Yeah.
running it in D&D, right? So,
Yeah.
but the point is, right? Yeah, and I agree with you, right? Like, I think this is interesting, right? To do a perspective of the environment that's fundamentally ecological, but a
Mhm.
perspective on the setting that is fundamentally magical, not physics, right?
Yeah, because like
So it's
like
like,
maybe the
yeah,
humans can like burn down a forest by power casting a powerful enough ritual, but like the 30-meter tall elk can also regrow that forest with its magic because it needs to eat.
yeah, I feel like the niche we're kind of carving out is like a world that like Darwin loves, Gandalf gets, and Newton hates.
Yeah, fuck
You know
Newton.
what I mean?
Yes, I think I do.
I feel good with this palette. I don't have too
Yeah.
much more. I don't really have. I feel
No,
like
I think we're
I
at
feel
the
like we've
end. I
got
don't
it.
have. Yeah, I just wanted to clear this thing up with magic because I was like, do the animals cast magic? I feel like they should.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think it's a good thing to put on there.
Perfect. All right. Then I will take another sip of water if you indulge me.
Oh my god, this is going straight into the cut it from the edit thing.
Yes.
I
Okay.
can't believe you
So,
did this.
yeah, I love creating more work for you. So, game setup. All right. We're so close to starting to play, listeners. I promise. The
Well, hey, I
game
know
is
this is
fun.
part of the game, though, listeners,
No,
right?
this
I
is
mean,
part of
to
the
give the
game.
listeners an overview, right? We, big picture, we've settled on the groundwork together so that we have fun during the rest of the game, right? That's why you do this at the start. We've settled on a fantasy world which features multiple eras with technology developing over them, in which humans or humanoid creatures are not in charge, and the world is dominated by megafauna, these gigantic beasts in this like very biological environment. Our palette is we like physically incarnated gods are allowed and encouraged. Late stage space tech is allowed and encouraged. So like, stuff you see in sci-fi, that kind of technology that is allowed by the end of the setting. And the megafauna of the setting can cast spells, right? They can produce magical effects. And then on our no side, we say no physiologically accurate physics, no space fitted physics, and no traditional fantasy lineages. We get to come up with our
Mhm,
own conscious creatures. So I think that's
mhm.
cool. That's our starting point. I think that's a solid groundwork to move into the next part.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Now we do our first pass. This is the final bit of game setup. And in light of our last game, in our first pass, every player gets to make a period or an event. I think that in light of our last game where we tried the game out with 2 players, we should
Yeah.
each create 2.
Okay.
And the reason for the listeners is that when we actually get to play the game, we will be constrained by a focus, which we will take turns choosing. So we'll have to create things relating to a certain topic. And right now, in this before we start this first pass, we get to create something completely unbridled and unconstrained.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we should have a little bit more stuff to do. So yeah, why don't you start?
All right. I get to create an era or an event, right?
You get to create an era or an event, correct?
All right. I think it's great to do eras early, and then fill them in later. I feel like that's something I learned from last game. So I'm going to put an era on the board. Our current 2 eras are the Dawn of Consciousness and the Apex of the Abyss Eats the World. I'm going to put in the Myconid Extinction. I think this is a world with many extinctions, and one of them was the Myconid Extinction, where some parasitic fungus ate everything and then died, obviously, because didn't have anything more to eat. And
Oh,
then a
I
new
see.
era started after that.
Well, okay. So the era, it's the entire era is characterized by the okay, because like a mechanic extinction also sounds a bit like an event, but like if you make it an era, then we have to fill it out.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Then this is the Myconid era.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
This is the Myconid era where fungi, as we know them from our world, came to the fore. And
Mhm.
spoilers, I'm going to add an extinction event to the era in a second.
Yeah. And just so you know, for the players, especially for the listeners, especially those who are watching the video, we can create now. I could create another era and place it between the Dawn of Consciousness and the Myconid era. So
Yeah.
the fact that Ceres has placed the Myconid era right after the Dawn of Consciousness on our Excel sheet doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
In terms of like the idea that these two are connected somehow.
So that's part of the game, is that it's like not chronological, the
Exactly.
way that it's created. So you can
Mhm.
always insert stuff in between. You can't change what's happened, but you can change what happened right before and right after, so to speak, by adding stuff there.
I'm going to create an era as well. And I'm going to call it the age of floating cities.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that seems like late game content.
I mean, it could be, but depends. Like, we have magic, so it doesn't have to be.
And so
to me, the question is more, why are we not touching the ground?
I do think that's interesting. Are you locked into putting that after the Myconid era?
Well, yours sounds like an early stage thing, and like,
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to.
so.
I was just double checking.
Yeah. The age of floating cities comes after the Myconid era. Yeah, your turn.
All right. I'm going to actually do an event because I want to take the opportunity to define a little bit our first conscious species in this setting. So I don't know a lot about them yet, but I'm going to put in an event under the Dawn of Consciousness, and this event is called the Speciation of the... I don't have a great name for them yet, and we might rename everything later for when we play in this world. So let's just call this the Speciation of the Four Eyes Wise People.
The Four Eyes Wise People.
FEWP, FEWP, for those. For everyone else. We need an acronym to quickly refer to them. Speciation of the Four Eyes Wise People. That happened at the Dawn of Consciousness.
Okay. That's interesting. I think Four Eyes Wise People. All right. So you renamed the Myconic extinction as the Myconid era. Okay.
Yeah, it's the Myconid era, and the extinction part of it is no longer locked in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because you were right. I was doing an event, but I was doing an event for an era I had not yet defined. So I thought, I'll just define a Myconid era. We can do a whole era that ends in an extinction.
Yeah. I want to make the I'm going to create an event as well. It's in the Dawn of Consciousness. It comes after the speciation of the Four Eyes Wise People. Of the
FEWP?
Thank you for that.
I think you mean.
Yeah, the FEWP. And it's going to be that the FEWP split over following the Keratin goddess.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
So the FEWP split very early.
Yeah, there's the first. I mean, we don't know how early this is in the Dawn of Consciousness. We may very well add a lot of events between these two, right?
Yeah, no, you're
what
right.
What
you're
goes
right.
for eras goes also for this, but like, yeah. Okay, so now that we're done with the first pass, we are officially in play. Also, when we played the tutorial, I omitted the fact because I had forgotten it. So I will explain how a regular turn goes, and that kind of like the modifications that we added to it. So,
Okay.
one of us will be declared the lens. The lens is like in a microscope, the player who gets to kind of decide what we're going to focus on. The focus can be anything from like an event, a period of time, an aspect of this world. Then each player takes a turn and creates a period, an event, or a scene. An event must take place inside a period, and a scene must take place inside an event. When we make our first scene, we will actually explain how that works. The lens get to go around, gets to essentially start, and is allowed to do two things. And what I forgot last time is that the two things have to be nested series. So the lens can only create like an event, a period and an event, or an event and a scene, or can just choose to create only one thing. So if you want to create a period but you don't have a good event for it, or if you want to create a good an event but you don't have a good scene for it, you just create an event as the lens. And then everybody goes once, and then the lens finishes the focus by going a second time and making two more nested things. So the idea is the lens goes twice, then everybody goes once, then the lens goes twice again. We had modified it as in the lens goes twice, then the other player goes once, then the lens goes once, then the other player goes once, and then the lens goes twice to cap it off. I mean
that's what they recommend for two players, and by the end of it, we were thinking of going just 2-2-2.
Yeah, that's true. All right, we did do that. Yeah, actually, we did do that. So we can do that. So two lens to the other player, and then to the lens again. With the caveat is that if the lens chooses to make two things, they need to be nested.
Okay.
After this, after we're done with making history, we'll talk about the legacies, but that's we'll explain later. Okay. So last time we played, we did Clown World. The two clowns, you and I. I started. I was the clown lens. So I would say this time you start being the lens. Maybe let's write here current focus, so we always have it there. Current focus.
Yeah, in fact, actually, we could create like a little record of the focuses that we've had, right? Mm-hmm. I guess the focus, yeah, exactly. All right, and then previous foci. All right, cool. So the current focus is going to be the conscious peoples of this world. So I think the focus is going to be on like, who are our cast of like fantasy lineages, and
all right.
So maybe I should do actually the diversity of conscious peoples in this world, right? Because it's not just like, obviously every part of the story somehow has to do with them, right? But this is like about the cast with them. So I think I'm going to go into the Myconid era, and I'm going to create an event, and that event is that the Four Eyes Wise people create what's the right word to use? Create, I guess, is cultivate mycelial consciousness.
Oh,
they did that. The Fupe, they cultivated mycelial consciousness. All right, so let me quickly color this correctly for it to be an event. Because now I'm going to add a scene.
Honestly, I think that what we really need to mark is like scenes.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that marking
so
events is
white
necessary.
Being like the color of events.
Yeah,
and then...
we're gonna have so many events. Like that's keep that the default.
All right. So it's All right, I think I've done it now, so that I'll be able to do that. So the Fube cultivate mycelial consciousness. So now I get to set a scene. So the idea of a scene is that it's a moment in time. We can either do it together, or I can just write what happens. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. In this scene, I think for the first scene, I'll just decide what happens because I'm still not 100% confident about the rule system. I'm going to write for this scene the radical offshoot of spore shamans develop a mycelial person in, I guess it wouldn't be a lab because of this sort of time era that we're in. But
I think develop is also the wrong word in terms of like the flavor of the word. It's so scientific. It should be more like conjure or summon or grow even. And
how about awaken?
Yeah. And like to the where, like instead of don't say lab, I would say like a garden. Probably that's why you grow.
Yeah, I mean, I was feeling like the depths of the earth, maybe like a Mines of Moria kind of place.
If you go underground, I would pick like a wet place because of like the way mushrooms are. You know?
Yeah,
like
I think that's a good point.
Like some moldy underground cave.
In the underground springs of life.
Mm-hmm.
And like in this scene, right, we would just see these spore shamans work down here continuously until they, forge some kind of body out of mycelium and awaken it from the water. And they're alive now.
Mm-hmm.
So we got mushroom people.
Right.
So those are my two. That was my event, the Fube cultivate mycelial consciousness, and then a specific scene about it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in the Myconid era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, since we're talking about diversity of the conscious people of this world, I will. So I brought up the keratin goddess.
You did.
Yeah. I think
you want to make those bug people.
I think I like to make those bug people, don't I?
gotta do that bug thing.
Yeah. Oh man, I just had a vision of the future of this world, of the Myconid era.
Tell me about it.
All right.
Tell me about it. Add your events.
So I'm gonna have that the Fube following the keratin goddess are reborn in as the names are bad. I'm just gonna call them for now. I'm gonna call them the
I would say easy descriptive name, like bug people, right? If that's what they are. If they're bug people, then call them bug people. Because we're gonna come back and rename this, right? We're gonna come back and do renaming.
I had the Arthropolos, but I call them the bug people. And then I'll say precursors.
Is not bad. That might be their end name.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just for now do bug people, and then we can just say bug people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is like a precursor race, like lineage. Like there will be
there's many different kinds of bug people
in the future. Right now, there's only one, but this is kind of like, yeah. And then I will very topically, because The Last of Us season 2 is about to come out.
Do something in the Myconid era.
The necro, Myconid necromancers create bug zombies. You know how there's a real life. You know that the
Yeah.
zombie mushroom from
Cordyceps or whatever.
that cordyceps is real, and it actually infects bugs and turns them actually into zombie bugs. Like that's all real. It's real science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's
there you
the
go.
thing.
Myconid necromancers
Because it is
the-
real science,
Yeah. Hey,
could we do something different?
Don't you like the idea of like warrior bugs covered in armor with mushroom growing out of their eyes?
Yeah, I mean, and we can do that. And if that's what we do, then that's fine and I'm happy with it. But wouldn't it be interesting if the Myconid necromancers could affect more than just bug people? Or if they decide to affect someone different than bug people?
It's too late. This is not how this game is supposed to work. Otherwise, we're gonna if we start setting this precedent, like I hear you,
All right.
but it's a dangerous precedent to set. You're gonna have to
And
yes
so
and me here.
So for my second round, I need to make something nested again as the lens?
Yes, exactly. Or you can only
Okay.
create one thing. If like you have a cool idea and you know if you have a good event and you don't have a good scene for it.
Well,
No.
but I mean, scenes are kind of cool, right? I mean,
Scenes are kind of cool.
Like, I mean, like why not do a scene when I could do a scene? All right. So we have I like the vibe that we have going right now, right? Who are our conscious people? They're all small animals in the real world, right? We have bugs. Then okay, four eyes wise people, who knows? They might be anything at this point. We're not sure. Probably they're bug like since they split into keratin ones, right? So maybe they're like arthropods. But anyway, so we have four eyes wise people, we have bug people, we have mushroom people. These are all small things in
Well,
our
I
world.
imagine
And I think
that the four eyes wise people do not have like carapaces, so they're not arthropods because the keratin god is the one that gives them the shell.
Yeah, you're right. They need to be like naked
Yeah.
bugs. They need to be like bugs without carapaces.
Slugs.
Anyways, the point is these are
Slug
all
people.
small things, and I think that is cool, right? It's a fun way to communicate about the world that all the conscious beings of it are the things that are like not really in control in our world. So I'm trying to think what other small animals exist, right? I mean, you could do something like a rodent or something like that, and that's cool, I guess. But do you have any ideas for me for tiny animals that are cool and interesting?
Well, if we're looking at like inspirations from nature,
Yeah.
what we are kind of missing from the tropes
Mhm.
is the plant fae people, right?
Yeah.
The flowers.
I'm shy of doing plants though, because plants get so big too, right?
That's
But
true.
yeah. I
mean,
think
we can also talk about more about these four eyes wise people. Like I didn't think originally when they start following the keratin goddess, I wasn't thinking that they would turn into bug people, but then in hindsight was like, yeah, probably. But like
yeah.
you can tell us more about the diversity of what these four eyes wise people are. They don't all have to turn into, animals. Like dwarves are not humans plus an animal. They're humans plus stone. And you can also take that angle.
Mm. All right.
Otherwise, there's the water.
I think that
You
I
can
think
always
no,
go
I
back
think
to
that's
the
a good
water.
point. I think that's a good point. Let's talk about the four eyes wise people. The four eyes wise people harness their first magic
Mm.
from the protean slug mom that they look like. And I need to wrap this column. All right. So so this is before the keratin goddess, right? That's before anyone
This
even
is
heard
before the
heard.
split.
Yeah, this is before the split. And so now I could do a scene here. I guess I guess I could do a scene here. The scene is
Oh, you know what we've forgotten to do, but like it's okay.
Yeah, tell me.
We haven't marked anything as like dark or light. The game kind of the game kind of like wants you to assign a dark or light tag to every event and era, with the idea that you might create something that sounds good and then get the dark tag to it, which starts stimulating kind of like thinking, and also gives you a good overview of like if an era is supposed to generally be considered a good era or a bad era. But we are not doing it, and honestly, I don't know, looking at this, how I would mark certain things. I mean, I guess that's part of the creative process, but anyways, it's too late. Or do you want to
Well,
retroactively?
but what we could do, right, is we currently have 4 eras.
Mm-hmm.
We could mark each era at least with a marker. We could take turns deciding what each era is predominantly, if it's light or dark.
Sure. You created 2 eras basically, and I created 2. Like I created the apex of the abyss eats the world and the age of floating cities. I can do those 2, and you can do the first 2.
But it would also be fun if
You did mine and I did
1
yours?
and 1. Yeah. Well, I mean, like we could do 1 and 1, right? So like I could do like, what if I did the Myconid era and the Age of Floating Cities, and you did the Dawn of Consciousness and the Apex of the Abyss Eats the World? Is that cool?
I don't know.
Is that a good division for you?
No, let's do. I take the Dawn of Consciousness and the Age of Floating Cities, and you take the Myconid era and the Apex of the Apex of the Abyss Eats the World, because like I feel like the start and the end one are a bit self-explanatory. Or they risk being
so I'm gonna do the Myconid era is dark.
Yeah, I mean it sounded like it.
And the apex of everything eats the world is also dark, obviously. I mean, there's
Is
hope.
It?
It's dark if you're a Western industrial 2024 human. Because we don't think of like you know what I mean? Like the average person in a Western industrialized society doesn't think that the end of the world could be hopeful.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're like, you super in tune yourself with this setting and you're like, yeah, but the cycle of life and live in the now and Eastern philosophy and Buddhism, right? Then yeah, maybe you could see it as hopeful. But like, generally speaking, this is dark, right?
Generally speaking, the end of the world
both of these
dark.
are light.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I think the Dawn of Consciousness would generally be a light era. I mean, that doesn't mean that there won't be dark things happening in it, but like generally it's a light era. And the Age of Floating Cities too, I wanted to be like a swashbuckling nice time. So
cool.
The end of the world? Sorry.
The era and this.
Yeah. You had something else to add?
Well, I was just going to say, to finish that last round where I was the lens, I said that the Four Eyes Wise people harness their first magic from Protean Slug Mom that they look like, which is the event, right? And then I gave them a scene, which is like the first harsh winter is survived by, again, developing and harnessing our inherent slime blob powers.
You make all these scenes, you don't want to involve me at all.
I don't remember how it works when you involve someone else.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for you to involve me.
I'll explain
and then I know how it works.
Sure. Okay. Slime blob. The first harsh winter survived by developing and harnessing our inherent slime blob powers. Amazing.
Yes.
There's
so I think
2 spells.
Defined pretty much what the Four Eyes Wise people look like, which is kind of like a Protean slime with 4 eyes in it.
Yeah, there's 2 spells at this era. Warm blob and cold blob. Depending on the weather.
They saved us, gosh darn it.
Yeah.
They saved us from inclement weather.
Okay, so that concludes this turn. Now let's talk about legacies. Legacies are elements that of the setting that we want to kind of like keep from a certain age. After every turn, a legacy is decided. The legacy has to relate to something that was created in this turn. So in this case, it would be me, because it's the player right to the lens. Pick something that appeared during this last focus and makes the legacy. I want to take as a legacy the idea of the magic system.
Okay.
I want us to keep talking about it, and so I pick it as a legacy. And now I get to create an event or a dictated scene that relates to one of the legacies. And I am going to add I like the idea, if we're going towards bug people, that
Are we going towards bug people?
We are.
Or are you going towards bug people?
I like the idea because like often bug bodies are like kind of like tools in a way, are shaped to be tools, and then you have ants and like eusocial bugs that kind of like have built structures and stuff like that. That the bug people are the people who have like the more wizardy, arcane kind of magic, where they study and build. And so I will add an event in the Myconid era. And that is that the development.
It has to relate to the magic system
Of
right?
Development of war arcana by the bug people.
All right.
And it comes after the Myconid necromancers create bug zombies.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
I have an idea for like a rule for this world.
Yeah.
And I want to run it by you. And also I want to ask how the game actually foresees this kind of, like, sometimes you want to create something that's not like really an era or an event. It's just like a rule.
Yeah.
Because I think I have a cool-ish idea for how this magic system works. Which is warlock style. Right?
Oh, okay.
The Keratin goddess gives us, by worshipping the Keratin goddess and studying her, we learn the warlock magics of how to do keratin things, right? And we can make cutty mandibles and stabby mandibles and good whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then like by studying the slug god, right, we get this protean power of like absorption or like transformation or something like that, right? And by studying the fungal hive that lives in the springs of life, right, we develop the mycelial like power suite, right? And so there's like each megafauna is like is a god, and each people are kind of like warlocks or clerics, depending on how you kind of see it. But you know what I mean?
I mean, this is starting to sound a lot like my world building concept for Edge of Extinction. So yeah, I understand very well.
But like, could we put that down as a rule? Is that allowed, or how does the game foresee this sort of
there
thing?
There isn't really a something like that, but like I don't see why we shouldn't be able to just do it, like create this as like a part of the game, even if the game doesn't foresee something like this, we can still make it.
I mean,
but
we
you know
can
what?
shoehorn it into an event, right? We could say that when the few harness their first magic, they unlock the secret to like megafauna bonding, which is like this process.
Yeah. Well, listen. How are we going to solve this? And is this world going to be a fun experiment, or is this all going to come crushing down? We'll find out in the next episode, since we're already at 1 hour and 6 minutes of recording.
All right. Cool. Yeah, we'll come back. This is definitely at least a 2-parter, right? As you can tell.
At least.
But for now, we're going to call it quits. Do you have any plugs you want to talk about?
No. But maybe when we're done recording the second half, I will.
All right. I'm going to plug being on pod with your buddies again. It's been a little while. I was sick for a while. It's good to be back.
I was not in the best shape either.
That is true. Alrighty. Well, that'll just about do it for our 24th episode, I believe. If you want more, you can find us on youtube.com/@a-friendly-orbit, as well as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you happen to have any Astro Echoes you want to share with us, you can email us at afriendlyorbit@gmail.com. All one word.
All right, Ceres. I'll mega talk to you later, and to all of our mega fellow mega voyagers, we will catch you out there amongst the mega stars.